Hey, good morning, everybody. It's KB5 MIQ Big Boy. This morning, we're going to talk a little bit about different types of antennas and way the links of them and things like that. Try to give some of these doohams some ideas. Hopefully, we can get them on HF a little earlier. I'm glad to see everybody getting these technician tickets. I really want to see them get on HF because it'll help keep them interested in the hobby. I'm afraid if they limit themselves to just VHF, UHF, repeater work, sooner or later they may grow tired of the hobby, and we really need to keep them in this hobby much as we can. Like I said, WD5 HKV, WD5, W5DLX, and I talk a lot. Get a lot of my ideas for these videos from them, and DLX and I was chatting yesterday. He gave me an idea for this video. So we're going to talk about different types of HF antennas, mainly, and I'm going to give you some dimensions on some half-wave dipoles. And first off, talk about, if you look back on my other videos, I talk about antenna safety. Please watch it and stay as safe as possible messing with these things, especially around power lines. We'll talk a little bit about my personal setup. Like I said, I've always done my ham radio on a budget. I've got several different antennas and an understanding wife, and I don't live in an HOA, so I don't have any problem putting antennas up. I've got a 2-element MFJ Moxon Yagi up about 50 feet on a push-up pole with an old Alliance rotor. Probably one of the best 10-meter antennas I've ever used. It's a really relatively inexpensive antenna. They're about $100 from MFJ. Got a homebrew 17-meter dipole under it, which is probably up about 40 feet. I've got a Hustler 5BTV vertical ground mounted in my backyard, which covers 10, 15, 20, 40, and 80. I've got a 6-meter mag mount vertical on my roof. Got a 2-meter 440 quarter wave vertical, a diamond mounted on a pole about probably 25 feet in the air. Under it, I've got a 14-element high gain boomer for VHF, 2 meters. And I've got another homemade dipole for 160 up out in the way back of my backyard. So, antennas are easy to put up. There's multitudes of schematics and information available on QRZ, ARRL, any ham site, and any ham social media page has constantly got antenna ideas, so don't let that hold you back. I'm going to talk about making real simple antennas and kind of give you a few characteristics of each band that's been my experience with them. Now, there's guys that's going to tell you more stuff about them than I can, but we'll give you a little bit of experience from my experience with them. Now, to make a simple half-wave dipole, all you need is a center insulator, piece of plexiglass, piece of plastic, maybe 2-inch square, enough to put 2 bolts through, and a place to hang it. Measure your wire for each leg, terminate them on each bolt. Take your coax, put the center conductor on one leg and the braid on the other, make sure they're not touching. Have it cut right, run your coax in, check your SWR, and you've got a half-wave dipole. You measure it for whatever your main operating frequency is, and generally you have some pretty good bandwidth on either side of it to use it without a tuner. I never owned a tuner in my life until the last 7, 8, 10 years. I'd always measured antennas and run without a tuner. HKV did too. So what we're going to talk about now today is we'll start out with 6-meter band. And I use West Mountain Radio calculator to figure these dimensions. And okay, Kat. And you may have to tweak these dimensions depending on how high you get them in the air and things like that. And a general rule of thumb, when I first got into this hobby, I always thought I was told half-wave dipole need to be at least a quarter wave off the ground. Well, now I'm seeing they say a half-wave dipole needs to be a full half-wave off the ground. However, you may not always be able to get that, and you'll see it as you get down in the lower bands what I'm talking about. So we're going to start with the 6-meter band. And I use a frequency of 50 megahertz, 50.125 is the frequency I use for this calculation. The total length of the dipole is 9 feet 4 inches, and each element was like 4 feet 8 inches. So that's a real small, easy to put up dipole. The 6-meter band is, they call it the magic band. It's either dead or it's wide open. Now, I've made 6-meter contacts in years past. I hadn't been on 6 in a lot of years. One thing you'll find on 6, you can make some good contacts, you really can, but if you call CQ in the wrong place, one of the 6-meter band police will scold you, so get ready for that. But it is, they call it the magic band, because when it's open wide open. My next band, this is my personal favorite band, is 10 meters. And I used the frequency that we use at night for my dipole measurement, a 28.450. 16.5 feet total length, 8.28 feet, 8.8 feet, 2.8 inches overall, each leg. Now, that antenna should be worked fine 16 feet in the air according to their directions. Personally, the higher you can put any antenna up, the better it goes. 10-meter band is my favorite band. It's quiet. There's not a lot of noise level on it. If the band's dead and you've got, say, a 30-mile radius of hams that want to hold a nightly chat like we do, like DLX, HKV, and I do, works great for ground wave. And when the band's open, you can work the world on it. It's really a fun band to use. Now, bear in mind, it's a big band. It runs from 2800 to 2999. And it's broke up in CW, novice phone, and on above on there. Let's look at the band plan to get all the breakdown on it. The majority of the contacts you'll make on phone on 10 meters are going to be from 28.3 to 28.5 in the novice portion. I don't know why that is. Most of the guys I talk to are general class or higher, but everybody seems to use that portion to make DX contacts with. I have made contacts above 28.5. And it's a good rule of thumb on that band, if the band is open and you've got a general class license or higher, roll up above 28.5. There's usually somebody hanging out up there you can make some DX contacts with. 12-meter band. I used a frequency of 24,930 for my calculator length. 18 feet, 9.2 inches overall length of the dipole. 9 feet, 4.7 inches each leg. I've made a few 12-meter contacts, and generally, as a rule, if 10 is open, 12 is open. I need to try to get on it more. It's a good band. It's not a real big band, not a lot of room in there, but I always gravitate to 10 meters, but 12 meters works fine, and I've made contacts there. Next band, 15 meters. I use 21.200, and the dipole length's 22 feet 1 inches overall length, 11 feet 5.5 inch for each leg. And you've noticed the lower we go in band, the longer the dipole gets. That's something you learn in your studies, that you learn on different types of antennas when you take your test. 15 meters is a good band. I've made contacts there. Here's probably my second favorite band, 17 meters. And I just used the beginning of the phone portion, 18.110 for the frequency. 25 foot, 10 inches, approximately overall length. And I think I wrote something down here wrong. I have 12 feet 1 inch each leg. I have a 17 meter homemade dipole up right now. I've worked South Africa on, and I've got it up about 35, 40 feet. 20 meters. I'm using 14,150 as frequency. Overall length of dipole, 33 foot 8.8, 16 foot 6.5 inches each leg. 20 meters is probably the band that when everybody makes general, everybody wants to go to. It's a good band. It's open all the time, especially in daylight hours. it's kind of crowded. The drawback that I have with 20 meters is a lot of people run amps there. And if you're not running an amp, sometimes you have a hard time making a DX contact. It's a good band. It really is. A lot of people use it. I've made a lot of contacts on 20. In fact, I've been trying to get back on 20 some using this vertical. One thing on 20, and if you look back at some other videos, I've talked about this, and making DX contacts is what I do. If I hear a station I want to try to work, I'll listen to him a little bit and kind of see if you can tell who he's taking when people start throwing their calls out. If he's taking the loudest guy, then you're probably going to have a hard time working him if you're not running an amp. I've seen them take the last guy they hear. I've seen them take the first guy they hear. You just kind of got to listen to them and listen to who's throwing calls out and listen to who he picks up to know kind of the best time to throw your call out. 20 meters, good band, open all the time in daytime. 40 meter band. Now we're getting down to some bigger antennas that's going to require more height. I use 7.125 as a frequency, 65 feet, 8.2 inches overall length for your antenna, 32 feet, 10.1 inches each leg. So if you put that up according to rule, that antenna is supposed to be 65 feet in the air. Now, may not be able to do that. A lot of people can't. I can't. But that's just what, and put it up as high as you can and go for it. 80 meters. I use 3.700 as a frequency. Overall length of antenna, 126 feet, 5.9 inches. 63 feet, I believe, I can't read my writing, 8 inches approximately each leg. Now that's getting a long dipole. But according to the book, it's supposed to be over 100 feet in the air. Now you're going to love this last one. And I'm not even going to talk about them other two bands that we've got. I didn't even know we had that are lower than this. So I'm stopping at 160. 1.843 megahertz is the frequency I use. The total antenna length, 253 feet, 11.2 inches long. Each leg, 126 feet, 11.6 inches long. Now, I just put an antenna 160 up on, a dipole up on 160 a few months ago. HKV did too. They are not up according to Hole at all. Mine is at the peak about 32 feet in the air, and each end is probably 15 feet off the ground. I made contacts on it. 160 is a nighttime band, basically like 80 meters. I forgot to mention that. Those bands work better at night. And 160 has a pretty high noise level for some reason. And any of you guys that work 160 a lot, feel free to comment on that. See if we can help these guys out that are trying to get on there. 160 is another band they run a lot of power on, but it's not real crowded. You'll get on there at night, and a lot of guys are having their nightly rag shoes on 160. I made a few contacts on it. I need to get back in there on it some at night again, but this depends on how late at night you want to set up and things like that. But don't let lack of an HF antenna keep you off HF. Figure out a way to put one up. I mentioned in my last video, in fact, I saw a picture on social media the other day where a guy had put antenna in the roof of his house. And if you live in a 2-story house that's got a big open attic in it, you can tie a dipole up in it, it'll work just fine. You don't have to have solid, Radio Shack used to sell antenna project wire, which was just stranded copper wire, 14 gauge wire. You can use a regular THHN electrical wire with insulated on it and leave it on there. It ain't gonna hurt a thing. I bought a 500-foot roll of 14 gauge THHN to make my 160 dipole out of. Works great on it. You don't have to, if you want to use a ballon, feel free to. You don't have to. Make you a center conductor. I make you a way to hook it up in the center. As long as you keep the two legs isolated, should work fine. Get a good measurement on it, and check your SWR before you start trying to operate with it. Get it as high as you can, and don't feel left out if all you can run is a dipole antenna, because they're one of the best antennas made. They're just not, a dipole antenna is not really directional, or maybe it's some people might consider it bidirectional because it works both directions, or omnidirectional, whatever term you want to use. But they don't have any gain to them. They're, like a Yagi does. A Yagi has a gain to it because it's directing through your director and reflector your signal in a certain direction, and also will pick up on the receive better, have some gain to it. So just use these ideas to get on HF. Try not to limit yourself to a talkie and working repeaters. If you like it, that's great. I keep one in the truck all the time. I got a radio on my pickup. I got a couple talkies here on my desk. I've got to make a trip next Friday to Central Texas, and I'll put a mag mount and a talkie in my truck because I go out that way on my dad's truck. Sometimes I get on there and talk, sometimes I don't. The thing with my personal enjoyment of this hobby is making HF contacts, especially DX contacts. It's not that I don't want to talk local, but sometimes I just don't want to talk local. I guess that's the best way to put it. But anyway, the main thing is enjoy the hobby. Try to get into on the low bands, especially with the sunspot cycle coming up. Sunspot cycle keeps coming up the way it is. 10 meters is going to be a fun band. When I got into this hobby back in 91, I come in on the tail end of that big sunspot cycle. Man, I had a blast on 10 meters. You can make contacts, DX contacts every day on that band. And on our nightly roundtable, HKV and I started this back then, we'd have people check in all over the country with us at night. And that's a fun part of the hobby. We don't run a formal net. DLX, HKV, and myself, we try to get in there on Mondays, Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Friday nights about 7:30 Central Standard Time, and we're on here to anywhere 30 minutes to an hour, really about 45 minutes on average. So if you hear us on 28450, check in, please. We want people to check in with us. And if we're not on 28450, tune around. We're going to be there somewhere. Sometimes we got on there and there'll be a net on that frequency. We'll just find us another frequency and still try to hold our little nightly roundtable. If you got any questions, any way I can help you, please drop me an email. My email is listed on my QRZ page. KB5MIQ is my call sign. I just hit 148 subscribers on the page. I really appreciate everybody subscribing. We're trying to do this to support the hobby because it's a fun hobby. We all enjoy doing this. Hope everybody has a great week. This is KB5MIQ Big Boy 73.